Hey, good morning, everybody. Renee here from my house to yours. And this last weekend we were looking at the book of Job and how the question that is posed at the very beginning of the book of Job is finally answered at the end. And the question is this: does Job worship the gifts or the giver? Does Job just worship God because he gets all kinds of good gifts from God, or does he really worship God because he's God? That is a very tough question to answer. How about you? Do you worship the gifts or the giver? It's a tough question with some serious implications. There's a pastor I know named Lance Witt down in Southern California, and Lance was driving a van on a Mexico mission trip with his church's youth group one year, and he saw a boulder in the road, and he quickly swerved, and the van flipped several times, got smashed up. It finally ended up back on its tires again, right side up, and amazingly, there was not a single serious injury. Now, at the end of the week, when the kids had all come back from Mexico and they did their report, the church was just praising God for what seemed to be a miracle. But Lance got up and he said something that I don't think the church was expecting. He said, "What if it had all turned out differently? What if we had all died?" He said, "I'm praising God that we survived, but I think it's important that we understand God would be no less God. He would be no less loving. He would be no less kind and no less gracious if we had not survived. It just so happened," he said, "that in this circumstances we survived, but other church vans have taken other kids to other camps and they have crashed and people have died. And God is no less God." And so he said, we have to realize God's the one who ultimately gets to decide what he allows us to go through. And that is a powerful lesson, a difficult lesson, and that's the lesson that is taught us in the book of Job, which we looked at this last weekend in church. God says in Job 41:11, "Who has a claim against me that I must pay? Everything under heaven belongs to me." In other words, God isn't obligated to explain himself to us, and that's where Job ultimately gets to. He says, "Though he slay me, yet I will trust in him," in Job 13:15. And Job said, "The Lord gives and the Lord takes away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Now, you might be stumped a little bit and go, well, if I'm not supposed to worship the gifts but worship the giver, what is there to praise God for if not miracles and provisions? Well, here's how you can praise God when your heart is breaking. You can praise God that he is a good and loving God, that he's all-powerful, that he notices every detail of life, that he's in ultimate control, that he'll ultimately save me. And you can see Job praises God for all those things in the book of Job. You need to ask yourself, I need to ask myself, am I praising God sometimes, not just for the good stuff he gives me, and I'm going to continue to thank him for that and for the miracles and for life itself, but am I also praising God for the unchanging truths about who he is that will never be altered no matter what happens to me? I think letting that be the core of your worship is a key to peace when the circumstances around us seem so uncertain. God bless you guys.